For those of you who feel that football is bringing a lot of benefit to you and your family, let me suggest this. As you watch this video and later listen to our interview of Steve Almond, think about other ways that you can bring those benefits without the cost to your children and to the children of others. Thank you. Hi, I'm Beth Green, and I'm the host of Inner Revolutionary Radio and Inner Revolutionary TV. Well, today I want to talk to you about football. Not just about the NFL, the National Football League, but football in general. But we want to focus a lot today on the NFL. And that's because the NFL is a huge machine and a huge power in this country. And I want to talk to you in a very not neutral way because I can't get neutral about the topic of football and violence. And I'm appealing to you. I'm appealing to mothers in particular. I'm appealing to fathers. I'm appealing to kids to tackle football and bring this game down. Now, that sounds very lopsided, one-sided, not very neutral for an inner revolutionary because I'm supposed to be talking about oneness and accountability and mutual support, which are the three elements that we make a commitment to when we become inner revolutionaries. But I am talking about oneness, and I am talking about accountability, and I'm talking about mutual support. And sometimes you have to say, based on our oneness with our fellow humans and our accountability for our actions and the needs to support the whole, we have to put something to a stop. Now, those of you who know me know that I need cheat sheets for facts because I have no memory. See, you would think that I had played football for many years, but see, but I probably won't even look at this because I don't need a memory to remember what's bothering me about football and why it should bother you. First of all, I want to tell you anecdotally something which will make you go, oh, we shouldn't even listen to her. When I was a child, we started getting television in the 1950s, see? And my father would put a football game on the air, and I'm looking at the thing and I'm thinking, are they crazy? Don't they see what they're doing? Look at them. These guys are viciously attacking each other. They're bonking their heads and they're hurting their bodies. I thought, oh my God, these people are crazy. Well, I felt the same way about boxing. And I think that sport needs to be brought down too, by the way. But anyway, this is not sport. This is blood sport. Okay. So I was totally in the minority, I have to say, in my attitude towards football. And I see that the whole world is like in love with football. And did you know that until April of 2015, this is October 2015, the NFL was a nonprofit corporation whose commissioner, Roger Goodell, had a salary and bonuses of $35 million in 2013. That is some nonprofit corporation. Well, they gave up their nonprofit status in April because there were some lawmakers who were kind of thinking that maybe this is a little bit off. But not only that, they wanted to disguise. I mean, they don't want to have to disclose how much their commissioner gets and all that stuff. So they decided to give it up. By the way, there's a couple of other sports are in that league. Now, this is a major industry. It's billions of dollars are really involved with the NFL. And then, as I'm sure you know, many, many universities also have big-time money in their athletic programs. By the way, isn't it interesting that football, which causes degeneration of the brain, is being touted in universities that are supposed to be educating the brain? But hey, there's no problem here. There's no denial. Just because 45% of the football players who are at the university never actually graduate, even after 5 years, well, that's not an issue either, is it? Denial is incredible. Well, on October 8th, from 3 to 4 Pacific, which is 6 to 7 Eastern, I'm going to be interviewing a guy named Steve Almond. And this guy is the author of a book called Against Football. a fan's reluctant manifesto. He was a fan of football for 40 years. He was a sports writer. He did like blow by blows, in love with the game. It was his way of bonding with his father when he was a kid. I mean, there's all that kind of stuff. Well, after 40 years and studying this, he says, no, I can't even turn it on anymore. The game is violent, it's damaging, it's part of our culture of violence. He talks about racism, misogyny, money. I mean, this guy knows his stuff. I mean, this guy was a reporter, so he knows how to go in there and research. See, I'm going to sit here. I'm not going to be able to tell you what Steve Almond knows. So he's going to be on our radio show on voiceamerica.com on October 8th. But you can listen to this podcast anytime afterwards, and I want you to listen, and I want you to pass this on, and I want you to send it to anybody, any mother who has a kid playing football, because guess what? Kids playing football, little kids, are also incurring traumas to their brains, right? And kids in high school. You want to hear something awful? Recent research by, and I think I'm going to give you the facts. See, I'm going to use my cheat sheet after all. Boston University and the Department of Veterans Affairs. They just completed a study. Now, I think that the study is a little bit biased because they're only taking the brains of people who are already dead. But it's maybe slightly biased, right? 96% of all NFL players, their brains show CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephal. I'm not even going to try. Look it up. It has to do with the degeneration of the brain in a way that is abnormal for people of that age. See, but you say, well, that's NFL. Well, 79% of all football players, and most football players are not in the NFL, show CTE. 79%. That includes high school, college, and pro. So again, all right, so it's a little bit skewed because these people are already dead. All right, so let's say it's 50%. Are those good odds? I mean, would you take your child and throw them into an arena where you had a 50% chance that kid is going to have brain damage? Well, we do it all the time. So now I want to tell you that I'm going to be showing a clip in this video of a new movie that's coming out in December. I think it's December 30th, called Concussion. There was another movie called Concussion, but they're not to be mixed up. This one is co-starring Will Smith and Alec Baldwin. Well, the hope is that this film, which shows the guy who discovered CTE, and I'm going to tell you about him in a minute, it shows him and it shows his struggle with the NFL. Just watch this trailer.
When I was a boy, heaven was here, and America was here. You could be anything, you could do anything. I am the wrong person to have discovered this.
If you don't speak for them, who will?
I found a disease that no one has ever seen. Repetitive head trauma chokes the brain.
The NFL does not want to talk to you. You turned on the lights and gave their biggest boogeyman a name.
You're going to war with a corporation that owns a day of the week.
No proof was presented today because there simply isn't any.
They have to listen to us. This is bigger than they are.
What you think they're doing to you now? That's nothing. You have no idea how bad this could get.
I have to keep going.
They want you to say you made it all up.
If they continue to deny my work, men continue to die.
Sometimes in life, you're asked to leave it alone. But sometimes you can't.
Who are you?
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I haven't seen the film, but they say it's honest and it's pretty nitty-gritty. Some people say that the NFL made them back off. I don't know that. But I will tell you that this is the biggest thing that's hit NFL football ever, because there have been other studies and there have been other films, and there have been other books. But see, they didn't get that much of a wide audience. I think that as people are beginning to understand on a larger scale, there's going to be a revulsion. But see, what you must get is that it isn't just concussions. And that's what these researchers are telling us. It's subconcussions. It's the concussions, those little subconcussions that the kids get in practice all the time because they have their heads butting against each other. And I'm not even talking about the rest of the physical damage that football does to players, But anyway, I saw an interview of Dr. Omalu. He is the doctor who named and discovered CTE, and that happened in 2002. This film is about him and his experiences. Of course, I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't been released. But, it's very Hollywoody. But I actually listened to an interview of this guy. He was on Frontline. First of all, it may or may not shock you to know that his first case where he discovered CTE was Mike Webster, who was in Pittsburgh, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers or something like that. Well, this guy died in 2002. 2002. This is 2015. That's when Dr. Omalu discovered CTE. He accidentally discovered it because he was in the coroner's office, and he wouldn't normally get the brain of a football player. But there was something about it that made them send it over to forensic pathology. And he did an investigation of this guy. And this poor guy had, his life had fallen apart. He became homeless. He couldn't hold down a job. He suffered from depression like so many other football players. And it just seemed unnatural. And Dr. Omalu did this test. And first he looked at the brain. He said, there's nothing wrong. It's a perfectly healthy brain. This is really odd. No signs of Alzheimer's. So these are the kinds of things you might think would happen if someone had advanced Alzheimer's, right? But he didn't give up. And, this is so fascinating. I hope you're listening to this whole thing and not shutting me off. This guy's a Catholic and from Nigeria. And he came to this country. See, he was not a football fan. He didn't know anything about football. He didn't grow up in the football culture. And he is a devout Catholic, and he always talks to the spirits of the corpses that he, examines. I'm serious. It was on this interview. Well, he said he felt it. He knew it. He could see something was wrong. This guy was 50 years old. He had anomalous behavior, and he said something is going on with this guy's brain, and he couldn't figure out what it was. So he made a promise to Mike Webster that he was going to prove that football killed him. Isn't that fascinating? He just felt it intuitively. And then he goes out and he studies it. But he doesn't even want to. He doesn't want to know. He's living a good life. He's living in his condo. He's having a happy life, right? Nothing is wrong. And finally, he drags himself into this. He sends out these slides to examine the guy's brain. They come back. He doesn't even look for months to see what the test says. And then, boom, he looks at these slides and he says, oh, my God. I have no idea what this is. This is something different. And he discovers CTE, which is what he named it. And he said, this is a disease. Now, you don't just discover a disease. I mean, you've got to get other people in your field to agree with you that there is a disease, and that's what he did. He's a scientist. You know what I mean? He's not an inner revolutionary. He's this nice, sweet, quiet African guy in another country, surrounded by, people from another culture, but he's driven by his heart and by his conscience, and he finds support. It's obvious. It's obvious that this condition exists. So he describes it. Now, I think he had 3 football players that he examined. They all had the same symptoms and the same problems. And then he published an article in the Journal of Neurosurgery, which is where the NFL publishes its articles. And he's so naive, he thinks that the NFL is going to be thrilled because they're going to discover this and it's going to enhance the game. Well, needless to say, that was not the case. I mean, they tried every which way to shut this guy up. And in fact, it took a huge process for him to get that article in that journal, despite all the support that he had. And he had kept arguing and kept arguing. He went through a long process, finally gets it in there, and then all of a sudden he finds out that he's being demanded a retraction, that they called him practicing voodoo, by the way, taking advantage of the fact that this is a black African doctor, right? I mean, is that racist or what? So anyway, he doesn't relent. He does not relent. And there's a lot of attacks on him. But now this is the important thing. This is the moment we've been waiting for. There was a meeting, and he had all the bigwigs from, he's not allowed to say who was there, but bigwig NFL doctors. One former NFL doctor, by the way, backed him up. He said, I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what. The bigwig NFL doctor says to him, do you have any idea what this means? And he said, no. And he said, by the 3rd time he asked that question. So Omalu says, well, what does it mean? He said that if 10% of the mothers took their kids out of football because of this, that would be the end of football. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about the NFL and football, trying to make this a somewhat safer sport. But see, when Omalu was interviewed, he was asked, what about the kids who play football? And this is before this latest study came out about the 79%, including the high school kids. And he said he doesn't care, 4, 5, 6-year-old kids, with or without helmets. This game damages your brain. Some people have more damage than others, but it's progressive. This is his opinion. It's a progressive disease. These are not the kind of odds that I would want to bet on if I were a betting woman or a betting man. There's so much involved with football. There's so much money involved. There's so much ego involved. You take a kid and puff him up and make him the jock of the year, or, has the homecoming queen. He gets to walk around, feels like he's just, everything. Or you take a kid who's got very few economic opportunities, minority kids, all kinds of kids, and you give them a chance like, wow, you're going to be famous, you're going to have money, you're going to have so much, and you don't say to them, and by the way, chances are you're going to end up with a broken body and a damaged brain. You don't say that. And one of the beautiful things that Steve Almond, the guy that we're going to interview, says, he says, if you took that money that they put into stadiums, because taxpayers are paying for these football stadiums, and you put that into education, then these kids would have another chance. But see, there's so much ego. It's like, oh, my child's a football player, or look at my son out there, or oh I'm a cheerleader now. And the kids feel all puffed up. And egos and children, they don't go well together. And egos and parents don't go well together either. Don't take my word for it. Do your own due diligence. Listen to our radio show on voiceamerica.com. Listen to Steve Almond. Listen to the people who know. We can stop this. There's a lot of things we feel helpless over, but this we're not helpless over. So I say, tackle football, tackle the NFL, turn it off. Don't let your children play. Please pass on this video. Talk to your friends. It's very simple. Turn it off. We don't need a multi-million-dollar campaign, which is a good thing because we don't have multi-million dollars. All we need is you. If you're interested in what we're doing around the inner revolution, our radio shows, our TV shows, our articles, and so on, please follow us on Facebook at Beth Green and the Inner Revolution. And we are also going to be keeping you abreast of Tackle Football. Just turned it off. We hope that you will be putting in your comments, that you will be passing things on, and that you'll be talking to us through Facebook. And don't forget to listen to the interview of Steve Almond that we're going to have on Inner Revolutionary Radio on voiceamerica.com. Broadcast live October 8th. That's a Thursday from 3 to 4 Pacific. And then thereafter, it'll be available via podcast. Help us. Let's pass it on. Let's do it together.